sure that you are able to go in, change Hello, Divination, and welcome. Right, so today we are doing a live stream session featuring an exclusive layout only available to lifetime members. So, if you recall yesterday on the live stream, I spoke about the bonuses where the existing lifetime members get these 6 beautiful layouts. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to take one of those layouts and make some customization to it, make it our own design basically. So if you want to take advantage of these layouts, do sign up. The deal is still on. The links to all of that is in the description below. And also I will link to the post which will have this particular tutorial, because as I'm going through this, it may be that I'll be moving too fast and you don't understand maybe what I'm saying. Now, what we've done is we've laid out a step-by-step instructions on the post, so you can actually go there and take a look at that post and you can be able to follow it. So what we'll be doing today is pretty much, as I mentioned, just redesigning part of the website, making it look like our own. So we're going to be adding products onto that section. So I'll be showing you step by step how to do that. And also, before I continue, I'd like to say, if you want to have access to these layouts, you can also become a lifetime member today. That offer is still on. So once you sign up today, you get lifetime access to the membership, and you will also get access to these layouts. These layouts are only for lifetime members, existing lifetime members, and also if you sign up for the lifetime membership. So what we need to do is, if you're a lifetime member, there's a link we've also provided in the show notes, where if you click on that link, it'll take you to directly to your account, where you can directly download these, or you can go into your member dashboard and you'll be able to download these from your account tab. Okay, so you can download these. So the one I'll be working on today, in fact, I'll show you quickly what it looks like. So I'm just going to switch over here to my computer. So this is one of the UI packs, the UI kit. So this is what we'll be taking a look at today. So this is for those of you that didn't get a chance to take a look at this. So this is what it looks like. Okay, so it's beautifully designed. Right, so what we're going to be doing today is we're going to go to a specific section of this UI layout. So this is the area that we're going to be coming to, and we're going to be adding our own product, okay? So let me show you what the final design will look like. So this is what we're replacing. So the final result will look like this. I'm just going to scroll down here. So there we go. So as you can see here, we've redesigned this area here. So now we can have our own product, and we've also added some animations to it, you know, some custom design to this layout. So the reason why I'm showing you this is just so that you know that these UI layouts, you can actually go in, customize them and make them, you know, look the way you want them to look. But the most important thing is you have the foundation to build your custom designs on. So this is what we'll be doing today. Okay, so I'm going to switch back over here so I can show you what else we have. So we have some hover effects here, as you can see. And over here as well, when you mouse over the description here, we have a really cool animation. And what I've also done, just in case you have more than 3 products, I've also cloned this design here and gave it its own color. So you can see here, the design is the same, but the color is slightly different. So when I mouse over here, you can see we have a different color there when you mouse over it. Okay, so that's pretty cool. And you know, the animations are pretty much the same. So this is what I will be showing you how to create step by step. So what do we need to get started? So as I mentioned, first of all, you need the layout, which you can access if you're a member. If you're not a member yet, you can become a lifetime member and then you have access to this. Number 2, there's also a video which Donna did, which shows you how to install this layout onto your existing website. So that video is in the post in the description below. So where I'm going to start off today is starting off from that stage as if you've actually added your layout onto your website, because that has already been done. There's a step-by-step good tutorial there that was done by Donna. It's in the description below. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to start off by creating a brand new page to then, you know, start creating our design on. But before I do that, I just want to make sure that everything is working fine. So I'm just going to take a look here at the comments, and it looks like everything is fine. We have quite a lot of you tuning here. So we have Sachin, Rajesh, MD, Junaid saying hi, good to see you. Radisban from Spain, good to see you. Actually, we're in Spain just over a month ago. Very beautiful place. Good to see you. We have Melody. We also have Venus IT Solutions saying hi, Mac. Good to see you. Awesome. Right. Venus IT Solutions, I will be taking a look at that as soon as this live stream is done. Rick, good to see you. We have Milan also saying hi, good to see you. Awesome, right. We also have Shanur saying hi, sir, good to see you. Janur, MD, says Adul, I think, says Adul, saying hi, Mac. Good to see you guys. Good to see you. Awesome. Right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to dive into the tutorial, and then I'll be showing you how to recreate what I've just shown you. Okay. So let's go ahead and do that, and let's work on this step by step. And as I mentioned, if I'm moving too fast, please do go to the tutorial, which I'll link to in the description below, so that you know, you can do this in your own time. All right, so let's dive into the tutorial things and customize it to your own liking. In fact, you can change so many things on this. You can change the colors to match your branding. So what we're going to do is just to focus on this main element here and add our own product. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is to delete this completely like that. So now that it's gone, let's add our new row. So I'm going to click this plus button here. So the column structure we're going to go with is this one right here. I'm going to select this. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to close this. The next stage now is to just go in and make adjustments to our row. So I'm going to click here on the row gear icon. Now we want our row to be full width. So we're going to click here on design, sizing, make this row full width. I'm going to select that. It's great. And then the next stage now is to make sure that we set our gutter width. So I'm going to click here on use custom gutter width. Now the gutter width is the space between the columns. So we don't want any spaces between the columns. So we're going to set this to 1. And then finally, we want to make sure that we equalize the column height. So I'm going to click here on equalize column height. Now the reason why we're equalizing column height is because whatever elements that we're going to have in each column, we don't want to have a situation where things have different heights. So if everything looks consistently with the same height, that's what we're trying to achieve. Right, so now that we have this, that's looking great. So moving on, what we're going to do now is to start adding our elements. In fact, before we start adding anything, let's add our spacing. So we want to make sure that we have enough spacing on the top and also on the bottom. So we're going to come over here to spacing and adjust our margins. So we're going to start with our top and bottom margin. And notice here I use this chain icon because it makes things easier for me by just adding the value here, and then it's automatically added to the bottom. But of course, in this case, we need 100. So now we have 100 on the top and the bottom. Right, next we're going to add a top padding of 87. So I'm going to come over here, add my 87. Now bear with me because the next settings I'm going to add here are going to take a bit of time, so just bear with me. Right, so now what we're going to start off with is column 1 top padding. Okay, so I'm going to click here and add my 100 on column 1 top padding. Column 2 top padding as well needs to be 100. Column 3 also needs to be 100. And for column 3 bottom padding, this needs to be set to 50. Now it looks like I'm setting all these values at random, but you know what? This will start making sense once I start adding all my modules in. Okay, so we've got 50 to our column 3 padding. Right, so moving on, let's go to our column 4 left padding. So this now needs to go onto the phone. So what we're going to do is we're going to click this little arrow, this little icon here. So on column 4, we need to come over here to the phone tab and set it to 10. Okay, so that needs to go on the left padding. So set that to 10. Okay, and then over here for column 4 left padding, this needs to be on the phone only. So we're going to come over here to right padding. So that needs to be on the phone only as well. So back over here to our desktop tab. Let's continue adding our sizes here. So for column 5 left padding, so that's column 5. So here we have to be very careful. Column 5 left padding. So this needs to be set to 5. And this is going to be for the desktop and the tablet, but for the phone, it needs to be set to 10. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to click here on this little icon. For the phone, this needs to be set to 10. Okay. So this needs to be also set on the right padding as well. So I'm going to set it to 10 on the right padding. And then over here on my desktop, it needs to be 5 to the left and also 5 to the right. Okay, so just bear with me here. I told you this was going to be a bit confusing, but we're going to get there in the end. Right, so for column 6 left padding, it needs to be set to 10 pixels. So let's scroll down here. Column 6 left padding, 10 pixels. And then column 6 left padding for the phone only. let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to click this little icon again and set it to 10. And then back here on the desktop. Now we're not done yet because here on the top, column 1 top padding. In fact, let's go back over here. So for column 1 top padding, we need to click this little icon again and also add our phone and tablet values. So for our top padding here, for the phone, it's going to be set to 0, 0 for the tablet. Column 2 padding, same thing, 0 for the tablet, 0 for the phone. Column 3, same thing. We're going to click here, make sure that we set it to 0 for the tablet and the phone for the top padding. Okay, so all is set now. So our tablet has been set. Our phone also has been set. Right, so all looks good now. So let's go and switch over to our padding to our desktop tab. Right, so moving on. Now that we've got this out of the way, and by the way, if you're not following me step by step here in this video, we also have a post where you can go in and double check these values as you're designing your website if you do want to follow this step by step. Right, so now it's time to add our content. So I'm going to save this for now, and then I'm going to come over here and click this plus button. So we're going to start off with our text module. I'm going to select it, and in that text module, we're going to add 01. Next, we're going to set our default background color. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to click here on background, click this plus button, and I'm going to paste my value here. Now, if you want to use the same values as I'm using throughout this tutorial, again, I'll leave a link to the post in the show notes below. So now that we have our background color all set, let's go ahead and add our hover color. So I'm going to click here on this arrow tool, click on hover, and then click on this area here and paste my hover color, just like that. So now if I just test this, I can see now that my color is switching between the two states, which is great. Right, so moving on. The next thing now is to add our background image. So I am going to click on the third tab here, click this plus button, and the image I'm going to use is an image which is already in my media library that came with this UI kit. So I'm just going to go with this one here. But of course, you can use your own images as you're designing your layout. So I'm going to click upload an image. So right now it looks all crazy, it looks all messed up, but there's a few adjustments that we need to make here to make this work. So first of all, for our background image size, by default, it's set to cover. Make sure that it's set to fit. Or in fact, it needs to be actual size. This background image position, center, that's good. And make sure that it's not repeating. Okay, that's very, very important. Make sure it's not repeating. Otherwise, you're going to have this shape all over the place. Okay, so now that we have this in place, now let's go to our text settings. So I'm going to come over here to design, text, and then we're going to start off with our font. So right now we're going to change our default font to a font called Muli. We're going to change our font weight to light, and then our font color to white. Now the reason why we're using white is we need great contrast here because we have a very dark background, so we need to make sure it's easier to read. So I've selected my white color here. Next, we need to make this nice and big, so we're going to change the size to about 80, but we might as well adjust our size for our smartphones. Okay, so no, I don't need the hover. So make sure you don't click this hover by mistake as I've just done. Otherwise, you'll be setting different options in there. Right, so what I'm going to do here is for the phone, we're going to set this to 40, like that. So that looks great. I'm going to come back over here to my desktop view. And then for the line height, I'm going to set this to 1 EM. So now you notice that this value here is within this background, which is great. So moving on, let's go ahead now and add our text shadow color. And this is going to be white as well. So I'm going to scroll down here and choose the option. I'm going to go with this one here for our text shadow color. And I'm going to set my color to white. So I'm going to click here on the color. So now you can see that we have this shadow color and it looks like a glow. All right, great. So everything looks okay so far. So let's go ahead now and add some padding and left padding to make this look like a square. Right, so I'm going to scroll down here, click on spacing. So we are going to start with our top padding, add 200 to that. See, I'm adding it on the wrong place. It's supposed to be top padding. Okay, so now it looks like a square, which is great. So then next we need to add a 50 to the left and right padding, but this is only going to be on phones. Right, so I'm going to click here, click on phone, and then my padding needs to be on the left and the right, and then activate my chain. Great. Okay, so all is looking great now. Now let's modify the spacing on hover. So I'm going to come over here. So we want our hover to take effect here when we on the left padding. So we need to click here, click on hover, and we want to make sure that it's left padding, and we're going to set our value to 100. Okay, make sure your value is 100. So now when I switch between these two states, you'll notice that this will be switched between the two colors, and also this value here moves over here by 100 pixels. Great, so now that we have that's looking good. The next stage now is to go to our borders and add some rounded corners. Okay, so I'm going to click here on border. So the reason why we're adding this is because we just want to make this match our UI kit. So I'm going to activate this chain. In fact, it's activated by default. So all I have to do now is to add the value. So I've got my 20 in there. So you can see here my rounded corners have been added. I'm not sure if you can see this on this live stream, but I've added 20 in there. So that, in fact, you will be able to see it when I hover over it. Okay, so now that we have this in place, now let's add our box shadow. So I'm going to come over here, click on box shadow. So the type of box shadow I'm going to go with is this one here. So I'm going to select it. And then now it's time to add our values. So what I'm going to start off with is our box shadow horizontal position. So I'm going to add my value in here. So our next one here is the vertical position. Set it to -50. The spread strength, 17. And then we're going to add our color. So I'm going to come over here to the shadow color. Now by default, we notice here that this has an RGBA value. So we need to go in and drag the slider all the way up, because the value we're going to add here is going to be hexadecimal. Okay, so there we go. So now we see this beautiful color here behind this. So the next stage now is to go to the animation and add some animation to this. I'm going to scroll down, click on animation, The animation style we're going to go with here is the slide. We're going to slide to the right, and by default here it's set to center. And animation intensity, we're going to set this to 3%. Great. So all is done now. The next stage now is to add a divider module. So I'm going to save this. Click this plus button, search for my divider module. I'm going to select it. And then make sure that show divider is set to yes. Click on design. So I'm going to first come over here to my color and set my color to white. And then we're going to go to spacing. Set our top margins to 30. And my left margin here needs to be set to -200. So you can see here that as I'm adding my negative margins, the line is being transformed more to the left. So this is what we're trying to achieve with these negative margins. So the right margin needs to be set to 200. So we might as well do that. So I'm going to come over here, set this to 200. Okay, great. Now the next stage is to just make sure that on my phone, my sizes are also set. So I'm going to click here on this icon here, and then on the phone, this needs to be set to 0. Okay, like that. And then back here on the tablet, on the desktop view, so all looks okay. The next stage now is to add my text module. So I'm going to save this, come over here, click this plus button, search for my text module. I'm going to select it. And in this text module, this is where you add your description. So I'm just going to say hundreds of elements. Right. Okay. So let's make this a capital E. Okay. Right. So I might as well set this to heading 3 because by default it comes in as a normal paragraph. Okay. So let's set this to heading 3 like that. And then now we need to go in and set our heading text sizes. So I'm going to come over here to design. Right, so here, what I also do normally do is, in fact, let me show you what it will be quite confusing if you do it this way. So if you come over here to heading text, you can see here that by default, it just goes to heading 1. But we've made our setting to heading 3. So if I come back over here, you can see that this is heading 3. So what I normally do to go directly to the item that I need to make changes to, I just mouse over the item and click this brush tool. Okay, so this takes me directly now to heading 3. So that's just a quick tip that I thought I'd share with you. Okay, right. So let's change our default font here to Muli, and font weight needs to be set to light. Our color needs to be set to white. And now it's time to set our sizes. So first of all, we're going to set this to 30 for our desktop. And then we're going to go into our phone and set it to 18. So I'm going to click here on this little icon, go to the phone tab, set this to 18. Okay, back over here to the desktop. The next stage is to go to the spacing. So I'm going to scroll down here, click on spacing, and we need to start off with our top and bottom margins. So I'm going to activate this chain, add my value of 20, both the top and the bottom. Next, I need to add a left margin. So my left margin here is going to be -180. So you can see here now that my text has moved over towards the left, and then left padding of 20. And in fact, we need to add right padding of 20 as well. Right, so let's add our mobile sizes here. So I'm going to click here on this little icon. So on the smartphone or on the phone screen, this needs to be set to 0 for our left margin. that. So you notice that before, in fact, keep an eye here just below the 0, 1, okay? So if I add 0, you notice that now we can see our text, our heading text, because I've just made that little change. So it's very important that you go into these different screen sizes to make sure everything is in place. Okay, so now that I've added that, we also need to add 50 pixels to our left and right padding. Okay, so this needs to be set to 50. Okay, and then back over here, we need to make sure that this is 20. Okay, so it's 20 for the normal desktop, and then if you come over here to the phone, this is strange because this needs to be set to 50 on the phone. Okay, let's fix that. Actually, you know what? I'm looking at the top margins here. I'm supposed to come over here to custom padding, click this little icon, and then set my phone to 50. Activate the chain, and then back over here to desktop. This needs to be set to 20. Activate the chain. So now my same values are now added both to the left and the right, and then on the phone it's now 50. Okay, so it's important that you're setting all your values on the right item. So I was doing it on the margins. So let me just make sure that my margins are okay as well. So we've got 20 top and bottom, and then minus 80 here, and then for the phone it needs to be set to 0. Okay, so that's fine now. Okay, so now that we have this in place, the next thing now is to add a text module to column number 3. So let's save this. Set our text module. I'm going to select it. So it comes in with this default text. So we're just going to go with that default text, but this is where you get to add your own text that works with your own website. Okay. So we're just using this as dummy text. Right, so let's start off by adding our text color. So we're going to come over here to design, text, and then we're going to start off with our text color. Now this is going to be, the text is going to have some transparency. So I'm just going to drag this slider down a little bit and then paste my value between these brackets like that, and I'm just going to paste it. Now, if you want to use the same values as I'm using in this tutorial, I will leave a link to the post in the show notes below. Right, so now that we have our text color, let's add our text line height. So I'm going to scroll down here and set it to 2.2. Like that. Now it's time to go to the spacing and add our margins and padding and so on. So I'm going to scroll down here, click on spacing. So let's start with our left margin, because as you can see, things are not lined up here. So let's start with our left margin. So here we're going to set it to minus 180 so that everything is in the same line. And then over here to the right, in fact, we need to go into our phone and set this to 0. Okay, now it's easier to read because we can now see everything. Okay, now moving on, we also need to add a left padding of 20. In fact, it's left and right padding. And then for the phone, it needs to be set to 50. Activate the chain, so now the values are applied to both sides. So now we can see that all this content is easier now to read. Okay, so now that we have this in place, let's move on and continue and clone our button and add it to column 3. So I'm going to save this for now, and then we're going to come over here to the top. So this is the button that we need. So you can either use this little button here to duplicate this module or clone it. But the easiest way I found is to use shortcuts, and I use Command C because I'm on a Mac. But if you're on a PC, it's Control C. So let's go ahead and do that. I've just pressed that. Then I'm going to come over here and do a Command V. Okay, so now I've pasted that into place. Now let's change the contents of this button. So let's go into the button module settings. So here it says only $15. We can change this to buy now. And the most important thing here is also to make sure that you add a link to this button. So you need to come over here to button URL and add your link. So right now I've just added a dummy link because I don't have a specific link I need to link to. Okay, with that in place now, let's go ahead into design and position this button in the right place. Right, so we're going to start off with our top margin of 50. So to access that, we need to come over here to spacing, add our 50 here to the top. So now we can see there's a bit of space between the two. And then the most important thing is the left margin to make sure everything is in the right line. Okay, so our left margin here is going to be minus 160. Right, so everything is all aligned, which is great. And then we're going to add a right margin of 50, but this is only going to be on mobile devices. So I'm going to click here on this mobile thing and add my 50 to the right. And notice what happens when I add 50. So I'm going to come over here and add my 50. So now the button is now visible. Okay, so back over here to my desktop. So all is done here. Let's go ahead and save. And then what I'm going to do here onto column 4 here is to add an image. So I'm going to click this plus button here, search for my image module. I'm going to select it. And then I'm going to click anywhere on this area here and choose an image that I'm going to add here as my product. So these images here, I'm going to use images that I already have in my media library. So in your case, you need to use images that work well with whatever products that you have. And the images are better off if they are squares or 500 by 500. But I'm just going to go ahead and use the images that I have here. Okay, so I'm going to select my first one, click upload an image, and you can see it's added right here. So the next thing I'm going to do is to add a box shadow to this. So I'm going to click here on design, box shadow, and I'm going to go with this option. Okay, and then if I scroll down here, I'm going to choose a color. So I'm going to go with that white. But what you could also do is reduce the intensity of that color by dragging this slider here. Okay, so it depends how you want to have it, and also the blur strength. So if you want to increase the blur strength, you can always play around with the sliders like that. Okay, so I'm just going to keep it subtle like this. Next, let's add an animation here. So I'm going to scroll down, click on animation, and here on the animation, I'm going to slide it and slide it from the left. Animation delay is going to be 100 milliseconds. And animation intensity is going to be 3%. Okay. Now let's start adding our content. So I'm going to save this for now, and then I'm going to add a new module, and this is going to be a text module. I'm going to select it. And I'm just going to call this example 1. And then let's add our background color. So I'm going to come over here to background, click this plus button and add my color, just like that. Next, we're going to add a hover background color. So I'm going to click here on this little arrow, click on hover and paste my color in here, just like that. Okay, so that's going to be my hover color. Now let's go back to our text here and make sure that this is set to heading 4. So I'm going to highlight it, set this to heading 4, and then let's go ahead and customize it. So I'm going to click here on design, heading text, make sure heading 4 is selected. We're going to change our font to Muli. This is going to be set to light. And our text color here is going to be white because we have a dark background. And then let's go ahead and add our text sizes. So here I'm going to add my text size of 23 for the desktop and tablet. And when it comes to my mobile phones, this is going to be set to 18. Great. Moving on. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to add my default spacing. So I'm going to scroll all the way down here because as you can see, this text here doesn't have any breathing space. So I'm going to click here on spacing, and for my top padding, I'm going to set it to 50. And left padding and right padding is going to be 30. So I'm going to activate my chain and just add my left and a right padding here. Now I'm going to add my hover spacing. So I'm going to click here on this little icon. So the first thing I'm going to do is to make sure I'm on the right tab. So here I'm now on hover, and I'm going to add a top and bottom padding of 20. Activate my chain like that. So notice what happens there when I switch between these two. Right, so the next thing is to add my bottom margin on hover as well. So I'm going to click here. For my bottom margin, it's going to be 50. And then let's see what happens when I switch between the two. Okay, so that's a good hover effect. Okay, so back on my default state. The next thing I'm going to do now is to add a text module. So I'm going to save this. Click this plus button here. Search for my text module. I'm going to select it. Okay, so with this text module now selected, the next thing I'm going to do is to add a background color to this, and the color needs to match what we have here on the top. So I'm going to click here on background, click this plus button and add my color. So now you can see that it's now consistent. It looks like this is just one item. Okay, so now that we have this, it's going to be quite interesting to see, the animation that's going to be happening above here, just above this description text. So now that we have the background color, the next thing we need to do is to set our text settings. Okay, it's important that we set our text settings because we want to make sure that everything here is easier to read. So I'm going to come over here to design, text, and we're going to start off with our text color. So I'm going to come over here, and our color here is going to be an RGBA value. So I'm going to paste my values between the brackets like that. Our line height is going to be 2.2. Next, let's go to our spacing, because as you can see, everything is really close to the edges here. So let's give this some breathing space. So we're going to scroll down here, click on spacing, and we're going to add a bottom padding of 50. And then we're also going to add a left and a right padding of 30. Okay, so I'm going to activate my chain here and add my value. So you can now see that everything is, it's looking much, much, much better. Right, so the next stage now is to add a border, but this time we're going to add the border to the bottom, so some rounded corners. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to click here on border, deactivate the chain, and add 20 to the left, 20 to the right. So now we have this beautiful border here on the bottom of that text. So the next stage now is to clone all these modules over here to the remaining columns. So let's save this. And then I'm just going to use my way, which I think is easier. And that is using my shortcuts, keyboard shortcuts. So I'm going to hit Command C, Command V. I'm going to do it one more time here, Command V. And then again, I'm going to come here, Command C, Command V, Command V, and then I'm going to do the same here for this text. Okay, not sure what happened here, so let me just make sure that everything is looking consistent here. Right, I'm not sure why we have this gap, but you know what we can also do here is, let me show you. Oh, okay, it looks like I had it on there already. This is strange. Anyway, you know what I'm going to do? Just to make sure everything is going in the right place, I'm just going to multi-select and then copy and paste. So I'm going to hold down my Command key. I'm going to multi-select this like that. And then I'm going to copy and paste. Okay, now these are still the different heights. I'm not sure why that is. Anyway, we'll take a look at that soon. So the next thing we want to do now is to give different titles to this. So in my case here, I'm just going to say example 2 and example 3. So pretty much this is all our products that we've just added here. And then what you can also do is you can go in here and change these images. So I'm going to go in now and change my images. I'm going to click here. So this was the one that I had. So I'm just going to make sure they're the same sizes because we're going to have inconsistencies. So I'm going to go with this one here, upload an image. I'm going to come on this one. In fact, I'm going to save. Then I'm going to come on this one as well. Click on the gear icon. Okay, so let's just make sure that we have similar heights. Right, so right now I can't find the image which has a similar height. So what that means is, okay, we'll just go with this one then. But in your case, just make sure that whatever sizes you're going to use, they're going to be the same. Otherwise, the heights of these items here are going to be different. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead now and save. And the next stage now is to, let's say you want to have more products and you have more than just these that you have here with these descriptions. So what you could do is you could clone this whole row. So let's do that. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to click on duplicate row. So now we have the exact same copy here of this top here on the bottom. So I think when I save this, this height inconsistency here is going to be resolved. Okay. So let me just check just in case I have something extra here. No, I don't. Okay, that's fine. Right. So by cloning these, it just saves you a lot of time to rebuild all this again one more time. Right, so what you can do now that this is cloned, to differentiate these two, all you have to do now is to go in and, change this text. So for example, this one here could be called flexible type. Okay, and then you can also make this text bold if you wanted to. Like that. And I'm doing this inline as well. And what's also important here is to make sure that you come into this button and make sure it's linked to the right page. And then over here, you can also change this to 02. Now, let's say you want to replace the colors that we have here, because obviously this here is the same color as the one here on the bottom. So this could be a product with a different color altogether. So what you could do is to come over here into your module settings. Click on design. And you can do a find and replace. So let's say you want to change this background color here. Okay, so I'm just going to come over here, find and replace. So you can say maybe find this color and replace it with a totally different color. Okay, so that's how quickly you can do that. And let's say if you come over here to this design and you want to change this shadow. So what you want to do is to come over here to the shadow itself. You right click on the color, you click on find and replace, and then you replace that color with the color that you want. So let me add FF5400. Okay, so I'm going to click on replace. So now you can see that my color now has been replaced here on the back here. Okay. But what I could also have done here is I could have said replace all, and that color now will also be replaced here on this button. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So I'm just going to hit, in fact, I'm going to come back over here, right click, find and replace. Okay, I should have done it in the beginning, so that won't work. But if you say find and replace all, it will replace all the colors. So I'm just going to go now into this button here. In fact, you know what we could do, just to make things quicker, is to go into the button settings here, click on design button, and then change the color here. So my color here is FF5400. Okay, so I'm going to save that. So now we just differentiated what we have here on the top. In fact, this color has changed again. Right, so you don't want to do find and replace all. Okay, so you just want to do it on this particular row. So let's go back and fix that. So I'm going to click here on my settings, design, shadow, and then I'm just going to change my shadow color here. In fact, let me add the right color. So the right color here is 593 AFF. Okay, so that's my color here. Right, so as I mentioned, this is just to differentiate what we have here on the top with what we have here on the bottom. And then what you could also do here is to change the background hover color. So I'm going to click here on the background, click on hover, and then we're going to change the hover color here to this color, like that. Okay, so now these two items here are now totally different. You can see they're labeled differently, and also the color scheme that I've used here is also different to what we have here on the bottom. Okay, now over here on the products as well, you want to come in and change your product. So this could be product number 4, 5, and this one could be 6. And here as well, you can change the background image. So let's go ahead and do that quickly. So I'm going to click here on background, and then on the third tab here, we can change the background image. So you can go with any of these icons that we have here. So you can choose maybe this one here, upload an image. Okay, so now we have a different one here. Right, so pretty much this is how you can go in and change your UI kit. So I'm going to save changes here, click on publish. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to exit the Visual Builder and then test and see if this is working. Okay, you can see the animation there coming, and when I mouse over this area here, you can see the animation here is the hover effect is working. And as I scroll down, you saw that coming in as well, and this color is also different. Now over here as well, when I mouse over this area, you can see we have a beautiful animation there, like that. Okay, so this is how you can go in and customize this. Okay, so this use case is part of our Black Friday deal where we share 6 free unlimited edition landing pages with Black Friday customers and lifetime members. By joining our empowered community during these days and becoming a member, you will get 25% off everything. You also get all of the 6 landing pages for free, access to our awesome themes and plugins, and also bonus prizes. So seize the opportunity and become a member today. Right, I know this is a long tutorial, so if you do want to follow along step by step, please go to the post, which I've linked to in the show notes below. So in that post, you can follow all the steps and just achieve them that way. So I know there's a question here on Facebook from Julius, I think, saying, are you just hovering over the add button when performing a shortcut copy and paste? The answer to that is yes. So what you do is you just hover over where that module needs to go and then just paste it that way. Because if you don't do that, then Divi won't know where to paste whatever it is that you want to paste. So you just hover over where that little plus icon is and then just paste it that way. So that's how it works. Okay, so I'm just taking a look here and see if we have any more questions. Thank you very much. Good to see you, Monique. Saying here it was very helpful, learned a lot. The blog post was very helpful as well. So that's great. So yes, sometimes the way I'll be going through these tutorials could be maybe a bit too fast or maybe a bit too slow. So if you merge or if you prefer reading, you can actually go to the blog post and do it that way. So you can read the blog post and then follow it step by step, but at least you would have had a visual idea of what it's going to look like and what you might be doing in the actual tutorial. Okay, let's take a look here. Zane says, but the images on the left tint color needs to be changed. Yes, now with this tutorial, this is just about giving you ideas on how you can design this. So in your own implementation of this, you can actually use your own colors. If you want to make things brighter, if you want to change the colors completely, it's all up to you. But this is just to sort of like give you a bit of an inspiration on how you can do this. Now, this bonus is amazing. I would say get it before it expires, because the lifetime membership is fantastic. All the future updates, you'll be able to access those, and also great support, and also all these additions that we're adding to Divi. You don't have to pay anything extra once you become a lifetime member. So I recommend that you take on this lifetime membership before it expires. And again, once it expires, we don't have a lot of these sales. They only happen once a year. So you would have to wait almost a year just to get the opportunity to get one of these deals too. So I would say go ahead and do that. And also, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments box below. What I'll do is I will go through these and check them out and respond to the best that I can. Tomorrow, I'll be here again, same time. So do tune in. If you haven't pressed the bell notification, go ahead and do so, because that's how you'll get the notification when I come on live. So once again, I'd like to say thank you very much for tuning in. I really appreciate your time. I know this tutorial was quite long, but sometimes we have to go through these steps in order to achieve all the stuff that we're working on. So thanks again for tuning in. I really appreciate it. So everyone on YouTube and also on our Facebook page, I'd like to say have a great weekend, and also I'll see you again tomorrow, same time. Take care. Before I go, there's a question here. I won't even try to pronounce that, but the question is, what if you are already a member? So if you're already a member, you're good. Okay, so you don't have to worry about anything, no more upgrades. Once you're a lifetime member, you're good to go. But if you just have the basic Divi membership, which you pay every year, you can upgrade to the lifetime membership, and the upgrade also has a 25% discount. So this is the best time to get the upgrade. Okay, so if you're a normal Divi user where you're renewing every year, you can upgrade to the lifetime membership, and this is also at a 25% discount. So again, this is the right opportunity. But if you're a lifetime member, then you're all good. So enjoy these UI kits that we are releasing, these free 6 free UI kits. You can download them by going onto your profile on Elegant Themes and download these. And these are all exclusive to lifetime members, by the way. All right, gotta go. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you again tomorrow, same time. Take care.